Guys, Wonder Man is something special, but I'm worried that Marvel is done making original shows that are this good. Welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy, and here's our spoiler-free thoughts on Wonder Man, whether or not it's good, what it means for the future of Marvel TV, and where we go from here. First off, I was surprised at how much I loved this show. When Marvel announced they were dumping every episode in one day, I was pessimistic. Usually this indicates that they don't have much faith in a project, like the one-day episode dump for Echo. I am going to dive into why they dumped the series in a single day just a little bit later in the video. But first, let's talk about this show. Wonder Man is something we rarely see from Marvel Studios. It is a true departure from their format. Marvel always likes to say it uses different genres in its superhero movies, like Winter Soldier's a political thriller, etc. But all of their movies do have the same Marvel feel and structure. I mean, I love that structure, but it does become predictable. I mean, after all, how many Phase 2 projects ended with something big falling out of the sky? But the problem is that fans aren't always on board when they stray too far from the established format. She-Hulk was actually a faithful adaptation of the comics, but the sitcom structure and direct address to the camera were so different from what came before that a lot of fans felt alienated. But Wonder Man absolutely strays from the format, and it works so well. Now, I won't spoil anything that's not already in the trailers, but in the promo material, we see that Simon's main focus is not to defeat a supervillain or solve a mystery. He just wants to get a part in a movie. His personal ambition has caused him to strip away friendships and relationships, and he slowly learns that he needs friends in order to be a better actor. So Simon has a very relatable goal. He wants to be a movie star, so we are all on his side. The fact that he has powers is just one more obstacle to keeping him from achieving his dream. And this is, by the way, the best work that Kingsley has ever done in the MCU. When Shane Black turned the Mandarin into a silly drunk, I wouldn't go there for 20 minutes. He was gifting future creatives with so much material. Trevor Slattery is the opposite end of the Hollywood spectrum from Simon. Simon is young, he's hopeful, ambitious to a fault, but Trevor just feels grateful to be back in LA after abusing his career with drugs, alcohol, and becoming a terrorist. The two of them create an amazing buddy cop dynamic. In one episode, Simon even name drops the great movie Midnight Run, and their chemistry is similar to De Niro and Grodin's in that film. The style of the show is also refreshing. The opening title card with the on-screen copyright immediately calls to mind the 70s comedies of Albert Brooks or the modern films of Wes Anderson. There are episodes that feel like low-budget 90s indie films like Jon Favreau's Swingers. That movie was also about a crew of LA dreamers, and there are similarities between Favreau's character and Simon. They're both ambitious, but they have to overcome their personal limitations before they can succeed in the business of show. But the main reason this show works isn't the style, it's Simon. We are invested in his character, not just in his goals, but in his limitations. He has spent his whole life hiding his powers, and this has made him closed off emotionally. In the very first scene of the show, we see young Simon connect with the movie Wonder Man, and it's one of the few times we see him smile. Because he is so closed off emotionally, his only emotional outlet is acting. And like we see in the trailer, people with superpowers are not allowed to work in Hollywood. I'm gonna need you to sign this to confirm you don't have superpowers. Unlike most shows where the hero is saved by their powers in the end, Simon's powers actually prevent him from getting what he wants. This show is exactly the kind of project that Marvel TV needs to make. It's on a smaller scale, but it has connections to the MCU. Like there's imagery of Steve Rogers and Rogers the Musical, even White Vision. But the only background you really need to watch this show is Iron Man 3. Other than that, it could easily take place in our world. And if the studio decides to bring back Simon Williams in an Avengers movie, I think it can slide right in without much backstory. He's the actor Simon Williams. That's all you need to know. Marvel TV needs to do this. They have to give us new characters that, if they're interesting enough, they could then spin off into movies. But I'm worried that we're not going to get any shows like this anymore because of how Marvel is dumping the series and walking away. You know, as an actor, Simon Williams has a big problem. He gets too far into his own head to look for his motivation. So let me tell you an acting trick that I learned. When you build a character, think of scents or aromas because scents are so closely tied to your memory. Like, for instance, we used to go to this cabin when I was a kid, and to this day, when I smell smoky wood and leather sofas, it takes me right back to that moment. And I'm lucky that I found a cologne that takes me back to that place, Cool Leather by Joseph Abood. And I got it from Scentbird, they're the sponsor of this video. Scentbird offers a monthly subscription that lets you explore more than 900 authentic designer and niche fragrances. Each month, you receive an 8mm vial, providing about 120 sprays. It's plenty enough to test how a scent works for you in various situations. This month, I've been trying Cool Leather and Savant by Chris Collins, and this is another one of my new favorites. It has black cherry, whiskey accord, wood leather. It reminds me of an old-fashioned, which is my favorite drink. After I started working with Scentbird, I've been using cologne every day, and it's now an important part of my morning routine. Let me just spray my pulse points here. Ah, it's amazing. See, a full bottle of this cologne could range from $300 to $500, but Scentbird makes wearing high-end cologne affordable for a guy like me. To get started, you can use my code SCREEN4 to get 55% off your first month. You get to try the first fragrance from Scentbird for only $8.97, and then your next month will be only $17.95. That's a high-end fragrance for less than the cost of a movie ticket. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code that's on the screen right now. That's SCREEN4 for 55% off your first month. So give your senses a new story to tell and give Scentbird a try. Now back to what I was saying. time. So let's talk about why Marvel dumped this series in a single day and what this means for the future of the MCU and Marvel TV. Now look, I know this is controversial, but I am not a fan of dumping a whole series in one day. I grew up with old school TV, where television shows were events that you had to wait for. Netflix pioneered the dump and pump model in the early 2010s because their model is that they want everyone to have access to everything all of the time. And to be fair, binge watching did help shows like Squid Game get early momentum, but Disney Plus was smart to change to a weekly release. Shows like WandaVision and Loki developed buzz because of the ongoing mystery. Remember some of those cliffhangers? Whoa. And The Mandalorian Season 2 would have only been about Luke Skywalker if they dropped it in a single day. But instead, we got the slow reveal of characters like Bo-Katan and Boba Fett. I think 2021 was the heyday for Marvel TV, but the cracks were starting to show soon after. See, Marvel TV had an unconventional approach to production. Instead of hiring showrunners and demanding pilot scripts, Marvel Studios would greenlight projects and then just hire writers and directors. In other words, they ran their TV arm like a movie studio, and it started to show. Shows like Moon Knight, which was pretty good, still had episodes that were often repetitive, and several episodes of shows didn't even tell self-contained stories. They just kind of stop at arbitrary points. The TV shows felt like movies that were cut up into smaller sections, and Secret Invasion was the absolute breaking point of this studio. Like for instance, I think we can always measure fan enthusiasm by views on our YouTube breakdowns. And for Secret Invasion, we got great numbers right out the gate. But after that show, it took a while for even great Marvel shows like Loki 2 to get any kind of views. And even then, we never approached the same viewership of 2021. Now look, maybe this means that people still watch the shows, but they just weren't enthusiastic enough to watch a breakdown. Or maybe just fewer people watch us. Could be that too. But I definitely think Secret Invasion had an impact on how people perceived Marvel TV. Beginning with Secret Invasion, Marvel TV shows stopped feeling like events that you had to watch. And instead, they started to feel like burdens that you had to watch. So Marvel messed with the formula. In 2023, they started to play around with their posting schedule. They dropped What If Season 2 over Christmas, so it was over and done within a week and gathered no word of mouth. Then they cut Echo down from 6 episodes to 5 and dropped it in a single day under the banner Marvel Spotlight. So Marvel Spotlight seems to be code for we don't know what this is, so we'll drop it in one day. To date, only Echo and Wonderman have been given this Marvel Spotlight banner. And after Echo, so many good shows were relegated to one-day or one-week drops. Marvel Zombies, Eyes of Wakanda, and Ironheart were all winners, but they were not given the benefit of weekly hype over a series of weeks. Now, behind the scenes, I should also say that Marvel was way too quick to greenlight shows in its early years. When Disney Plus launched, Disney CEO Bob Paycheck needed to fill the platform with original programming, so he put the screws to Marvel and Lucasfilm to create more content. This meant a drop in quality and oversight, which is how we got the hot, pricey mess that is Secret Invasion. But the best shows like Agatha or Daredevil Born Again were still given weekly episodes. So why does Marvel think that Wonder Man is a spotlight show and not a weekly show? Well, I guess I should address the inherent problem with Marvel TV shows and the MCU's multiverse saga strategy altogether. Marvel movies were always box office hits, in part because people wanted to be caught up before the next Avengers movie. Everything felt like it was building towards something, so it was basically must-see programming. Missing a Marvel movie was like missing an episode of Game of Thrones, and Marvel TV started off like that, until there were no Avengers movies. Without the fun of watching all these characters meet, it felt like homework. Movies like The Thunderbolts, which did unite TV show characters, came in just a little too late in the saga. So Wonder Man was initially announced and greenlit in the middle of this Marvel TV surge back in 2022. But with Secret Invasion, Marvel's production costs caught up to them. The show went through massive reshoots. It cost $250 million and yet felt incredibly cheap. It attracted a lot of attention because it featured a movie star and it adapted a fan-favorite comic series, and Marvel could not have had a bigger, higher-viewed embarrassment. And this is right when Bob Iger returned as Disney CEO, and he immediately reined in these huge streaming budgets and expensive projects like Eternals 2 and Acolyte Season 2. Both of those were canceled. Now, at this point in early 2023, Wonder Man had already started to film, but then the writer's strike hit. Friend of the channel Joanna Robinson even reported that Marvel was going to cancel Wonder Man and not finish principal photography. But then, in October of 23, Marvel reconfigured their TV division. Instead of an overseeing producer and a single director like MCU films, they would now move to a traditional showrunner structure. Wonder Man producer Andrew Guest became the showrunner, and the show resumed filming after the strike. And get this, it wrapped in April 2024, almost 2 years ago. What? And this show is not heavy on visual effects, so you think it could have released like at least last year. And yet, Marvel decided to sit on it for months. This could be because they were spacing out their TV show releases, or it could be because Marvel had lost faith in the project or this type of series. Co-creator Destin Daniel Cretton recently revealed that during the strikes, Marvel did indeed want to write off the show for tax reasons, but the producers had to fight to complete the show. And the producers were right. This show is great. Wonder Man could be a continuing Marvel TV show in multiple seasons. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II could anchor Banner, a West Coast Avengers show. So the question remains, why did Disney Plus dump this series in a single day and give it the Marvel Spotlight label? Spotlight, I guess, is supposed to indicate a Marvel story focused on more grounded characters. But why even bother giving a Marvel series this label? So here's my theory. I think the Marvel got cold feet for Echo and Wonderman because they are so different from the conventional Marvel shows that we're used to. So they thought they could pull in a wider audience by saying, oh, it's Marvel Spotlight. This is also probably why Echo was given a simultaneous release on Hulu and Disney Plus. Maybe Disney thinks that weekly Wonderman releases would disappoint Marvel fans because shows like Loki, Daredevil, and Agatha featured established characters and got weekly releases, but this show is a bit of a slow burn by comparison. Now, I do wonder what this means for the future of Marvel TV shows. We know that Daredevil Born Again is already renewed for season 3, but beyond that, no Marvel TV shows have been formally announced after this year. What does this world come to? I'm sure they want to favor lower budget, more grounded shows, but I really hope this doesn't mean that Marvel is pivoting to more single-day drops. A single-day release cheapens a show, but a weekly release shows that the studio believes in the project. I love speculating about these shows one episode at a time with you guys. I love the mysteries and the slow burn of a traditional TV structure. One-day dumps feel like content, but multi-week releases feel like storytelling. But what do you guys think? Do you like one-day dumps so you can binge everything, or do you like a slow burn? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, or you can at me on Twitter, Blue Sky Threads, or are free to join Discord server. And just a reminder, use code SCREEN4 to get 55% off your first month at Scentbird. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.